Good afternoon from MWC 2026. I'm here together with Ralph Mupita, Group President and CEO, MTN Group. Hello Ralph, nice to meet you again.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
This year at MWC, the first time we see MTN home. How exciting is it for you?
No, it's great. It's good to have our own home and really feel pretty strong about and excited about the fact that we have our own home. Previously, we've been hosted by others, but we're able to host. It's the first time actually that Africa-based telecommunications or digital ecosystem company has had its own stand, and so very excited about it.
So the African Pavilion here. So we have four big companies, big players in Africa coming here together.
Yeah.
So is it time for Africa to be more present in Europe?
Well, it's not so much about presence in Europe, but it's more about that we want to be part of shaping the future of the digital ecosystem that we participate in.
Yeah.
So we're making a statement that we're here. We're not going anywhere, and we've got to be at the table where the big discussions are being held around the direction of technology evolution and how that technology evolution is going to enhance humanity. So those things are important, and so the African Pavilion is a physical manifestation of that.
So we had a lot of conversations here in several activities about handset affordability, about AI, about connectivity. So where do we stand right now? What is your perspective as a MTN head?
I think the future is super exciting. Of course, there's a lot of work still to be done around connecting more and more people to the benefits of the internet and everything that comes with it. And today, obviously, the big thematic is artificial intelligence of different sorts. So the challenges, in my mind, are also opportunities. So when I reflect on MTN, we have over 300 million customers. 45% of them have not experienced the internet.
Yeah.
They're still stuck in the voice era. So we need to think about what is it that we need to do, working with partners and the broader ecosystem to drive, let's say, handset affordability. The coverage issue is not a big issue anymore in our, it's been dealt with the last 20 years, so to speak. The real big issue is usage, and a big issue around usage is really handset affordability. So we did announce a partnership with OEMs who are interested to bring volume and scale at $40 price points, which we think at that level, also working with device financing, more and more Africans can be brought into the industry. So that's one initiative. I think the other big initiative that we also announcing is working together as African-based operators to bring 2,000 plus African languages into the AI era. So these languages need to be ingested into these large language modules. There'll be small ones as well that will happen because we can't afford to have Africans left behind. There's got to be a space for us, even with limited capital, to participate and ensure that we're staying abreast with the developments in technology, AI specifically.
So when we look at the usage gap, we see handset as one main pillar. So what about the services?
One of the observations that we've reflected on is, we've been so focused on connectivity and we've done a good job, as I said, on coverage.
Yeah.
I think the next frontier is how do we develop the digital services ourselves that we can have our customers consume. And for much, we will have a partnership approach, to be sure. Partnership is part of our model. But if you think about kind of content creation, whether it's music, it's video, we want to participate in that. The average MTN customer is using 14 gigabytes per month. We think that number, the next couple of years, will go to 30 plus. In India, they're already at 32. So, serving customers $2-3 ARPUs. Ours are $2-3 ARPUs as well. So we think the services is an area that we need to participate. We don't want to be a dumb pipe. We want to be able to deliver content that's useful to Africans, across our various markets. So digital services is part actually of the way we think about strategy for the next 3 to 5 years.
So do you think we need more African-focused services instead of more generic? It's the same like with the AI concept. AI only helps us if you create AI for Africans.
I don't think we should think of ourselves with a kind of a regional lens. I think we must adopt kind of the best global practices, but make sure that they're locally relevant. So, as I mentioned, whether it's music, whether it's short form video, and so forth, what we should be doing is enabling Africans, for example, to content create. They mustn't just be content consumers. And, the big global players, and let's stay with the format of TV, YouTube works fantastically well, for driving content creation. But there are customers and there are opportunities that are very local that we are better positioned to tap. And on that basis, I think it's important for us to step in and provide those solutions. So it's about making sure that we bring global and locally relevant solutions to our customers. We must always be tapped into what's happening globally.
Just to come back to more, let's say, current topic. So you recently shared this big IHS deal. So how do you see that from a strategic perspective? What was the idea behind and what impact do you, let's say, what is the desired outcome?
Look, we went the last couple of years into a deep strategic reflection around kind of digital infrastructure, what we own and don't own. And if we kind of cast our lens back the last 15 years, the TowerCo model that was promoted in the early 2000s, 2010s, last 15 years or so ago, made a lot of sense if you think about what drove. So let's start with a couple of, kind of strategic drivers for this, disposal, sale and leaseback type transactions that happened then. The first thing was we were moving from voice to data at that time, and the market structure was 3, 4, 5 player markets. So the opportunity for co-location was actually pretty high. Not everybody needed to build towers. You could take your active equipment and put it onto, and everybody was targeting 2 times, co-tenancy ratios or higher if you could. So that was one. Number 2, inflation, exchange rates a lot more stable. Energy was also, relatively stable. Fast forward to the last 3 or 4 years ago, that had all changed. Markets had consolidated. So you're having 3 or 2.5 player markets. So the TowerCo opportunity was kind of more muted. TowerCo is struggling a bit more. Inflation spiked, as we've seen the last couple of years. Exchange rates, you saw what happened, exchange rates in Nigeria, where we had real difficulties in 2000 and 2024. So that strategic reflection said, should we be owning our digital infrastructure, yes or no? At the same time we're doing that strategic reflection, IHS is talking about changing its own strategy from expanding into emerging markets to value creation and disposal of assets. And so those two the reflection point in IHS's own change of strategy brought us together about a year ago, where we said, let's have a conversation. And importantly, we want to have an Africa-focused strategy. We don't really want to be in Latin America. And I guess the rest is a bit of history. I think the final point looking forward, you've heard all the debates here about the importance of digital infrastructure in a world that, has, kind of a geotechnology lens and is evolving. We think it's quite important for us, to own or part own as much of the digital infrastructure ourselves. And in the way that we fashioned our strategy for the next 3 to 5 years, we talk about connectivity, we talk about fintech, we've put digital infrastructure, and towers fits neatly within that. So we're pretty excited, and we believe that the strategy will, enhance the value for our own shareholders, whether it's at the earnings level, whether it's cash flow level. So this is value accretive for our shareholders, subject to getting all the outstanding approvals. So super excited about
So it
the
was a
transaction.
logical conclusion.
Yeah, we're very thoughtful about it,
Yeah,
and we think it's the right strategy, particularly as we look at the next 5 years plus going forward.
So before we finish, after 4 days MWC, what can you bring back to Africa? What did you learn? What makes you more excited?
No, I'm excited by a couple of things. Firstly, the strategy that we have going forward, it remains the right strategy.
Yeah.
As I kind of, walk through these halls and talk to people about what we're trying to achieve. So number one is a validation on our strategy.
Sure.
So that feels really good. I think the second is that, as much as there's this sense that the advances and the investments we're seeing around AI are only for the East and the West, the US and China, I see quite differently is that the evolution is going to enable us in Africa in particular to leapfrog some of the challenges we have. So I'm super excited about the opportunity, and the direction of travel has not been fully mapped out. So we can participate and shape it. So that's also super important. The third is, the world's a very complex place at the moment, to be clear. But, the role of the digital economy has never been so important. And I can see how ourselves, our partners, other market participants, are going to be able to really bring the full potential of Africa forward by adopting these technologies so that the people, the communities, and the nation states we operate in are able to fulfill their potential. So that's what excites me. We at MTN, we're privileged and humbled to be able to serve 300 million people, and we're looking forward to the next 100 million over the next 5 to 7 years.
Thank you very much.
Much appreciated.
Always a pleasure, Ralph.
Thank you so much. Much appreciated. Thank you.
There was TechAfrica News from MWC 2026. You can find more on techafricanews.com.